I'm Richard Dodd, and you're listening to the Ecology Academy podcast. This is a show where we get to talk and learn about all things ecological, including interviews with top ecologists, both employers and employees, those working with ecologists, and also aspiring and inspiring career-seeking individuals setting out to make a difference. The show aims to provide you with insights, advice, and inspiration to help you succeed and excel as an effective ecologist and to make a real difference to our natural environment. Today I'm speaking with Neil Davies, who is the Consultancy Manager at TR33 Limited, an environmental company that provides full tree, grounds and estate maintenance services. Neil is passionate about trees and woodland and their function in both the built and natural environment. Drawing on 25 years in the industry, his aim is to provide pragmatic expert advice to the highest quality. He's keen on sharing knowledge and inspiring younger folk about the joys of nature, as seen from his many LinkedIn posts and YouTube videos. So Neil, welcome to the Ecology Academy podcast.
Thank you, Richard. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. I'm glad you're here too. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you've had a little bit of trouble some morning this morning, haven't you? But won't go into details, but you're okay now.
I'm fine now, thank you. Yeah, usual family stuff and dog stuff, but all shipshape now.
Excellent. So now, if you've listened to any of our podcasts, I'm sure you've listened to them all, Neil, but we like to start off the podcast with some innocent questions. No, there's no right or wrong answers. Just a little bit of an icebreaker to get these sort of get the brain in gear, get those voice cords warmed up. So, are you ready with little preparation?
Okay, yeah, let's give it a go.
Okay, they're all very innocent questions. So, first of all, Neil, habitats, species, or ecosystems?
I would go with ecosystems.
Ecosystems, okay. And if you chose an ecosystem, which ecosystem would you choose?
I think if I was to pick my favourite, it's got to be a wet woodland, a nice alder carr or something like that.
An alder carr, excellent. Okay, well, that may tap into my second question, which is favourite woodland.
There we go. So, yeah, an alder carr woodland.
Yeah.
Purely because there's just not that many of them, and when you're wandering through them, they feel kind of primeval, as though you go around the corner and see a dinosaur walking towards you, chewing on a clump of something.
Wow.
There's something magical about a well-established wet woodland.
Well, I should never look at a wet woodland in the same way now. Thanks for that. And
Very good.
Okay, third question, quite topical because we're now entering into a very grand phase of the year. So, Six Nations rugby, darts, Winter Olympics, or no thanks, you can keep the sports to yourself.
Tricky, because I'm not much of a sports person at all. But being Welsh, I think I would have to go with the Six Nations.
The Six Nations, yeah, it starts that well. As we're recording this, it starts very soon. In fact, I mean, it's not this weekend; it's the following weekend, isn't it? It's 2 weekends to come. Yeah, really. So I'm looking forward to that. I love the Six Nations. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, I watched the Autumn Nations as well last year as well. But yeah, it's brilliant. Bring it on, Wales to defend. Six Nations, excellent.
Easily defend.
Easily, absolutely, yeah. Okay, now this is probably a bit more up your street then. What tool do you find the most useful or you could not do without?
Oh, crumbs. That's a difficult one. Actually, my penknife.
Penknife, yeah.
Yeah, it's just so useful for a multitude of things while I'm on site. And a long time ago, I marked along the handle, what's the right word? Centimeter spacings along the handle.
Yeah.
So that if I'm taking a photograph of something, I can put my knife in the photograph and I've got an idea of scale when I come back to it.
Wow, that is a proper multitasking tool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think I've actually been seeing one of your videos with you when you're using that penknife. So I think we were making a walking stick, a little Y-notched walking stick.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one and the same.
There we go. Yeah. See, I do my research. I do watch the videos you're in.
Very good. Thank you.
And finally, okay, first question. And finally, what one thing would you like or want to achieve in 2022? I know we're in sort of in the latter part of January, maybe not a New Year's resolution, but, what one thing would you like to achieve in 2022?
I'm going for my Arbor A. There was some masters, master of, I forgot what the correct designation is now. But basically going up a rank in my professional membership with the Arboriculture Association.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's something I've been meaning to do for a while, and like many of us, it's a case of sitting down and logging those CPD points and extracting reports that you've done and building that evidence body to say, yes, I am as good as I say I am, and you should give me that accreditation, please.
Okay. Well, good luck with that. I mean, in fact, we might even, well, I'm sure we're going to delve into that actually. So I'll make a note of that to come back to in a second. But before we do that, yeah, thank you for that. That's the end of the questions. I'll post the results back to you after the end of this then, Neil. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So just for myself really, and for our listeners as well, could you outline sort of your career to date up until the time you were working for TR33, if that's all right?
Sure. Yeah. So I took a different path to all of my friends when I was at school. Going right back to the beginning, I was on. I went and did an apprenticeship rather than a degree. A lot of my friends went on to degrees. So I had my apprenticeship with the National Trust. I was based just outside High Wycombe at a place called Hewingdon Manor, which is a beautiful site. It's Benjamin Disraeli's house. And there I learned about landscapes and ecosystems and woodland management. Unfortunately, at the end of that, there wasn't a job for me. So I came home to South Wales, where I worked. I was self-employed doing primary thinnings in forestry. I worked for a utility arboriculture company. And then from there, went to Newport City Council's tree team and went from a groundsman to a climber to lead climber. From there to a countryside ranger at Caerphilly Council, so neighbouring council, went there and was managing Park Penalta, which has elements of larch forestry. It has ancient woodland, it has some wetlands, quite a nice mixed site for such a small site. There was a lot going on. Then from there to tree officer for Caerphilly Council. And then from there, I went to WSP UK and I started their arboriculture and forestry team. I was there for 9 years and grew it from just myself up to 9 people, and then left WSP just a shade under 12 months ago to come and join TR33.
Great.
So
yeah. So yeah, I'm going to actually take you right back to the start of that conversation then. So, you mentioned that you took a different route to your friends being, going on an apprenticeship. And well, I imagine that you said the others went to university. Why was that? What did you see? Was university not an option to you, or was it something actually you thought, I want to go down a different route because my skills lie elsewhere? Why did you go for apprenticeship rather than actually a degree?
Yeah, well, my parents were very supportive. They basically said, so long as you're happy and you're healthy and you're not causing any harm, you can do what you want. So yeah, university was available. But it just didn't seem right for me. It didn't feel like the right kind of fit. I wasn't that academic at school. I'd already been doing some sort of estate work at a local mansion house. I was doing grounds maintenance basically there. So I'd got a taste for working with my hands and being out in the elements. And then I met a chap at a gardener's question time. I'm painting myself as a complete geek now. I don't know many 14 or 15-year-olds that go along to gardener's question time, but I did. And there was a chap there from the National Trust who said, well, come along and see me at Cirencester and I'll tell you about our apprenticeship scheme. Yeah. And that was it. I was sold. I applied for all 8 countryside management posts that were vacant across the whole of the UK. And I was lucky enough to get the one at Hewingdon Manor.
Right.
So it was just more of a fit for me at the time.
Yeah.
I was more practically minded than academically minded at the time.
And where does that come from? Is it obviously we won't go into too much detail, but is it something that's you were sort of raised in a family that was very much outdoorsy, or was it something that that you sort of took on yourself, to actually go and do a lot more outdoor activities than any of your friends?
Yeah, I guess it stems from my granddad. He and I used to earn a few pounds here and there, looking after gardens and cleaning up allotments, that kind of thing. And nobody else in my family has really got an outside job. They've all got relatively normal, for want of a better word, jobs. So
arboriculture is not normal. Is that?
I blame my granddad. Yeah, it came from him, and he's very passionate about nature, and I think it just rubbed off. And after meeting another very passionate chap, I'm struggling to remember his name now, from the National Trust. They're so enthusiastic and so generous about sharing their knowledge. I thought, I want to be a part of that.
Right. I think it is. I think, you meet some inspirational people along your way, don't you? And they sort of, it's not, it's not your parents. It's not like someone, who's with you, a large part of your life. All of a sudden, it may take sort of a stranger to come along into your life and make a statement that resonates with you, and that takes you into a different direction, or confirms, or reconfirms something that's already probably part of your psyche. That's certainly happened with myself.
Yeah. What about you, Richard? What was your sort of spark to flame for ecology?
Oh, blimey! Oh, well, a question to me. That's a bit like yourself. I mean, I was not very. I mean, I'm casting you as not very academic, but I certainly wasn't. I liked school, but I was just not very good at it in terms of the academic side of things. And so I sort of took a long route into. Well, I'd say ecology, but it wasn't even on my radar. I think I knew the word ecology when I was maybe 14, 15, but I have no idea what jobs were available there. It wasn't even, on my radar at all. But yeah, after a very long, I'm going to cut this short, but 6 years in the military, B&Q trainee, apprentice. There we go. It was like it wasn't the YTS scheme. It was like the B&Q trainee scheme, which is I think I earned about an extra 30p an hour compared to the YTS scheme there. But then it was just went back to university, and I think that was it. Then it's people around you. I think I got inspired by the people around me, those discussions that were had, and that sort of sparked me to go into ecology. There you go. So that's the short answer to that question. Thank you for asking.
Good show.
Okay, so moving on. So you also then, as I say, you went to a National Trust. Now, when did you start to gain these qualifications? So you went from National Trust to, I mean, I don't know the time scales here, but then went to Newport as a tree. Was it tree officer? You say there, lead?
No, initially as a groundsman, just on the tree gang.
Mm-hmm.
I say just on the tree gang. They're very highly trained, capable folk.
Yeah.
I got most of my practical qualifications I got with the National Trust. They were very good. But then when it came to things like chippers and tree surgery qualifications, aerial rescue, that kind of stuff, I got those through Newport City Council.
Yeah.
And then when I moved over to being a tree officer with Caerphilly Council, I went back to college, but basically there's an organisation called Tree Life, who at the time were running a thing called the Technician Certificate in Arboriculture. Mm-hmm. I think these days it's called a QCF level 4, and that was based over at Westonbirt Arboretum. So I went there for 1 day a week and home studied for the rest of it, and gained that the Arb Association Technician Certificate in Arboriculture. It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is a bit.
Or as I say, level 4 as it's called now. So I was awarded that in 2008, and then from there onwards, internal training really. So a lot of what I got from Caerphilly was around dealing with people, dealing with systems, and the sort of back office kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I moved on to WSP from there, which were again very generous with their training. You know, they converted me from being a tree officer into a consultant, basically.
Yeah, and that you mentioned. So did you actually assist or actually lead on, say, the development of that team? So was there an ARB team there before your arrival?
There was a lady there who was excellent, Lucy. She did ARB, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying that she's not an ARB. She had a whole bunch of other strings to her bow. She was an environmental professional. She did a lot of environmental management stuff, but wasn't strictly speaking an ARB. So yeah, when I turned up, I took all of the tree work off her, basically. And yes, yeah, I grew it from just me to the 9 folk that were there pre-COVID. So yeah, there's quite a steep learning curve there.
Yeah, so you said steep learning curve. So how, in terms of the strategies, how you did that, I mean, obviously supportive team, supportive employer and department that. But what was your, I mean, how did you go about recruiting that team? Was it something like, we need 5 people, 2 people, or just need 1 more person, and then we'll take it from there? I mean, how did you form that strategy to develop your team?
With we were lucky in the early years. We had large existing contracts with people like Balfour Beatty and National Grid. So there was a lot of work more or less on tap. So it was a case of keeping up with that, scoping work that came through to us to ask if we could provide it. Mm-hmm. And the most difficult recruitment actually was going from just 1 to 2 people, because all of a sudden you're not just finding work to feed yourself and manage yourself and produce yourself. You've then got to find work. You know, you're doubling your workforce overnight, and then having to find the work, do the work, provide the work, but then also feed work to your second person and make sure your second person has got everything they need, and do the review of the second person as well. So I think that was the trickiest bit. And then luckily my second person, John Mitchener, who I'm working with now, he was just an absolute star. So more or less between us, we grew the team from there upwards organically. You know, as work came to us, we used to take some very careful decisions about what to go for and what not to go for, and I think that's key. I think you've really got to go careful to not just bid on every piece of work or chase every piece of work that comes your way. We found it hugely valuable to say, right, stop a minute. You know, what is this? What are they asking for? And the fundamental questions are, you know, can we do it? Have we got the capabilities and the skills? Do we want to do it? You know, is this client somebody we can tie our wagon to? Have they got similar ethics to us? Have they got similar beliefs to us? Is it in an area that we want to be involved with? And then finally, should we do it? You know, is this piece of work going to jeopardize other work that we've got going on? You know, is it just going to be too much? Will we be overstretched? And I think using those 3 stop gates, as it were, really helped us to grow the team organically.
To go, and I suppose, I mean, if I can add a 4th one in there, I think it's also, is it going to be of value, invaluable, as in profitable as well? So you know,
absolutely.
I'm sure that, you know, it's one of those things that you take for granted. It has to be profitable, you know. But you know, it's one of the, I mean, it's in you know, environmental consultancy. I mean, we're getting better at it, I'm sure, but it's, you know, money seemed to be a dirty word. Well, we need to do this because we're doing a good job for the, you know, for people on the planet, you know. But also, companies do need to exist. They need to make a profit, and I think some people have that slight fear of money, as in, or asking for money, you know, that value, that profit. But you know, without it, we can't employ anyone. We can't employ that second person, that third person, and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a terribly British thing, isn't it? That we don't like to talk about money or ask for money or say, oh, excuse me, you've got to pay for that. We've just provided that service. But you're 100% right. Without that profit margin and the sort of working capital in the business, you can't reinvest in the business. You can't provide additional training or improve your equipment or improve your work environment, or give people a special treat. You know, if you've had a kill a month or a kill a year, or you've been out doing dawn and dusk surveys for goodness knows how long, it's quite nice to have a bit of money to say, here you are, guys, I'm going to take you all out for a pie and a pint, or
Yeah.
you know, here's whatever it is. I think it's important to give back.
Absolutely, exactly, and I think it's I think we can. There's a lot. That's I think we'll say that as a podcast in itself, really, about profitability. So, something that's
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure we all are working towards as owners, anyway. But go back to your skills then. So you mentioned about obviously the practical qualifications. So I mean, for a layperson like myself, then Neil, what sort of skills does it take, or do you need to be an arborist? So what does an arborist do, and what skills do you need to become one?
Okay, so for our consultancy, we assess trees based on their structure. So as a structure, I suppose I'm trying to find a simpler way to do it, but yes, a structure. So we look at have they got cracks or splits or hollows in them? Have they got bits hanging off? Are they unstable in any way? What's their relationship to surrounding things like buildings and other trees or power lines, for example? And we also look at them in terms of a living organism. You know, are they healthy? Do they have vitality? What stage of life are they at? How are they responding to the effects of pests or disease?
Yeah.
So to allow us to be able to do that comprehensively and robustly, we need a good knowledge of biology of the tree. We need a good species knowledge, because tree species have different characteristics. Some are denser than others. Some have a live fast, die young, for want of better words, strategy, so that they grow tall and quickly, and they're maybe not quite as robust as a structure as something that grows more slowly and more robustly.
Yeah.
So yeah, species knowledge, biology knowledge, helps to have a little bit of engineering knowledge as well, just so you know what you can understand if something's going to fall over or not. You know, you don't have to be a mechanical engineer or a physicist. You just need to understand that that's a really long branch with a lot of weight on the end of it. It's going to want to fall off, that kind of thing, at the most basic level. So that really helps. I think a huge quality is having a good sense of logic. That if, for example, there's a pathogen acting on the tree, and the pathogen seems to be advancing more than the tree is putting on leaf, for example, logic would say, well, the pathogen is out competing the tree, so therefore the tree is going to be in decline. So that kind of good, robust logic is hugely valuable. So
Yep.
I think if you've got a good starting in those things, so structural knowledge, biological knowledge, species knowledge, and good logic, you'll go a long way.
So in terms of, I mean, I'm just looking at right at the, sort of entry level here. So an entry level ARB, then, I mean, is it something that you need like GCSEs in at all, or you don't need
sure.
qualification? You do, yeah.
They would help, definitely. I think if you've spent some of your career working in the environment in some way, that would help a lot. But no, you don't need GCSEs to be an entry level. They help, as they always will. You know, having a good grasp of English and maths and science is always valuable. But there's a qualification called a professional tree inspectors course, which is I think it's a week-long course with an exam at the end of it, and that will give you a minimal qualification to go out and assess trees.
Yeah.
But it should be said, to get to that point, you do need to be out and about and doing some self-learning or self-teaching along the way.
That's it. Yeah. So that's where logic. So it's a passion for or we say passion, but really just an interest, really, in obviously all things tree-like.
Yes, yeah, and an appetite for it. I mean, I still don't hold a degree now. You know, I tried to get one along while working and raising a family. I was accepted onto a master's course, but unfortunately, due to work and family, that hasn't been completed. But I don't believe you need a degree to be a successful environmental consultant, and certainly not an arboriculture consultant. It helps later in life, and when it comes back to circling back to the commercial aspect, there's some organisations where you would earn more if you've got a degree, but there's plenty of other organisations that don't put as much weight on having a degree.
Oh, it is. I think there's as you say, I don't think you need a degree. It certainly is, as an ecologist. I mean, I may shoot myself in the foot, but don't need a degree to lift a reptile sheet over, for instance, or stand outside a building and listen to white noise for a bit. But as you rightly say, that's I think there are other traits, skills that are required. But when it comes to the consultancy side, I think that's the other skills that we sort of overlook. That we've got the practical skills of species ID, the ecology of trees and other species as well. But then it's also communication skills. And I think that's the sort of thing, that I think we sort of should edge. Well, I think we do. We sort of look for within candidates too, whether they be an arborist or whether they be an ecologist.
Yes, yeah, sure. It's a curious trait of sort of boffins. I've met some incredibly intelligent professionals, fortunately enough, over my career, and you can see these people that know a vast amount about their subject, but they may not be very eloquent in getting their point across. So conversely, there's people that will talk all day about something, but to be blunt about it, they can be all fur coat and no knickers. So you have to
just write that down.
You have to find a healthy common ground somewhere to be knowledgeable and be robust in your subject, so that if you are challenged when you're a consultant on something, you've got the wherewithal to answer concisely and support your position.
Good stuff. Okay, then. Great. Well, moving on then. So what you do now then? So now you are, as you say, you're working for, you moved away from WSP to now head up. I say head up. You are heading up TR33, or certainly an integral part of TR33 there. So perhaps tell us a little bit about your company and what you do and your role within it,
sure.
Your team.
Sure. So I don't head it up. I'd get shot for claiming that mantle just yet. So basically, there's three elements, as you said in the introduction. There's a tree surgery element, which is led by David O'Brien, and that was really the founding element of the business. So we do all elements of tree surgery, from simple trimming a hedge in a back garden to this week the guys are taking down some extremely large pines for one of our clients, which is a very complicated job involving rigging and a bunch of different types of machinery to extract the material out from where it is. Then we have the grounds maintenance element, which tends to focus on commercial aspects of grounds maintenance. So they do things like schools, retail parks, industrial estates. I think they even do an airport somewhere. So a larger scale grounds maintenance, not Mrs. Smith's garden down the road.
And then commercial than domestic then, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And then there's my corner, which is consultancy. So there's four of us in the consultancy team. There's two full-time people, myself and John Mitchener, and then there's two part-time people, Richard and Pete. And the majority of our work focuses around doing tree condition surveys. Some people call them tree hazard surveys or tree safety surveys. But we also do provide surveys and reports to support planning applications. So trees in relation to development. We collaborate with your good selves, of course. So when people come to us for ecology matters, we pass them your way. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell, really.
And what's the size? Go on, sorry. No, I say, well, whereabouts are? I mean, we mentioned TR33, but I know where you're based. But so where about you're based, and sort of the size of your team as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So we're based just outside Cardiff, near St Mellons, in South Wales. There's between 50 and 60 of us, including office staff and support staff. We tend to operate throughout South Wales, across to Bristol, Avonmouth area occasionally for grounds maintenance and tree work. But when it comes to consultancy work, we'll work nationally, as long as it makes financial sense for us and for the client, of course. If we're going to cost them 3 times as much to travel up to Scotland, we'll be honest about it and just say, we'll pass you on to somebody that we know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And we mentioned, I mean, I may be jumping a little bit here, but obviously, with a team, did you say 50 to 60 people?
In total, yes.
Yeah. So with, that's a good sized team. I suppose it was classed as I don't know, medium to large consultancy, or not consultancy, sort of company there. So
Yep.
so with that amount of people there, what sort of qualities? I mean, what's your culture like then? So we talk about culture, company culture, but obviously you enjoy working where you are. I mean, what keeps you there?
It's really, quirky is not the right word. It's really individual compared to other places that I've worked. So a local authority, you've got a lot of really good, committed people that are very professional, and good fun, good interested folk. And then working for very large consultancies like WSP, they're very professional and very serious, and it's very corporation type feel. And then at TR33, we've got a healthy mixture, in the office, and when it comes to being professional and serious, they're amongst the most professional people I've ever worked with. They're just an outstanding bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But also because it's got a very much a family feel about it, because there's daughters, sons, brothers, cousins, son-in-laws, all involved in the business.
Yeah.
There's a good amount of banter as well. You can be quite blunt with people sometimes. It's interesting to hear phone calls in the office, because somebody in the office will be talking with a client or a stakeholder and being very accurate and concise and professional, and then put the phone down and turn around and give their colleague a good bit of, I can't repeat it here perhaps, but there's a good bit of,
it's an adult show, but yeah.
Yeah, and that means a lot to me, that people are afforded the space and the freedom to be themselves at work. And we have the dogs there as well, so I take my dog with me, and the boss, he brings his dog with him, and that makes a big difference. It's a very welcoming, sharing culture there, which I'm very supportive as well. The guys really help each other out. It's fantastic.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, and I know we're conscious of time now, so I just moving on then from what you do now with TR33. So looking at some, I mean, you mentioned then, obviously this year you're trying to do your Masters of MARB, was it?
Yeah, MARB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, I mean, what level do you need to be to obtain that? I mean, and what sort of a knowledge level? Is it something that I mean, I'm sure there's no definitive timeline, but say your entry level into ARB, and then you're progressing through the training and developments and so forth. I mean, what sort of qualifications do you aim for? Is it like after 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you towards the Master of ARB?
You're absolutely right. There's no one set answer. It depends on the individual entirely. And the ARB Association have recognised that there's no particular one route through the development. So there's an opportunity for people with more academic backgrounds. So there's an appraisal route that would look at your degree and your recent experience. And then there's the route that I'm taking, which looks at a longer period of your experience and requires you to submit a portfolio of evidence, as it were. So I think a good piece of advice would be to folk going for it is to try and get some diversification in your experience. If you're always doing a tree hazard assessment for housing sites, try and get out and do some development surveys. Or if you're always doing writing tree work specifications, try and get involved in some of the auditing stuff. Try and broaden your horizon a bit. That's what the accreditors are looking for, really. So I think I know some people that would go for chartered status, and very good people that would go for it within sort of certainly 5 to 6 years of graduating, and all credit to them. There are people there that can do it, and I'm sure will be successful at it. I'm a bit more old-fashioned, rightly or wrongly, that I think you need to have a bit more time served under your belt before you can really become chartered or get to MARB.
Mm.
So I think, I mean, I've been slow with it as well because I've been busy working and raising a family. But I think possibly after 6 to 10 years in the industry, you could achieve that level. But it's all, as we said before, it's all about appetite and passion. If you're in an arboriculture position just to do the job, do your 9 to 5, collect your pay and get home, then that's fine. You know, there's people out there that do that, and not detracting from them at all. You can do that. But if you're passionate and you have a thirst for it, then the sky's the limit, really.
Okay, great stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I think that's, you know, as you say, you know, there's no defined route with that. So in terms of collaborations then, so, you know, you mentioned about, we briefly touched upon about ecologists there, but so, you know, collaborative work then in terms of, you know, crossover sectors, well, not sectors, just industries really. So, you know, you work alongside ecologists, but I imagine you work alongside other disciplines too?
Yeah, sure. So it's one of the things I've been trying to get under our belt here at TR33 in my first year, was that to get the collaboration going with you guys, because obviously trees and woodland fit hand in glove with many aspects of arboriculture, of ecology, which obviously is quite a broad church in itself. But we're also collaborating with Sarah Dodd, who is a specialist in tree and woodland law. So she helps us out with cases around subsidence or damage claims, or breach of TPO, that kind of tree preservation order, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have another chap, Ian, who is an engineer and a soils professional. So we collaborate with him when people come to us for subsidence reports. Ian does the soils and the structural elements of it, and we provide the tree element. And then we touched base with a former colleague of mine in landscape architecture, who again is another overlap between the three of us, really, Richard. So yeah, it's another allied discipline. And the idea is that I don't believe you have to be one of these big mega corporations with everything in it and be that one-stop shop. That I think there's enough work out there, and there's enough professionals out there where we can share it around a bit, you know, and there's a lot to be gained from collaborating with each other and learning from each other, and sharing expertise on a broad spectrum, rather than doing it all within one house.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think collaboration is sort of the way. I mean, it's one of our values, you know, collaboration over competition, really. So, you know, I can totally see that. You know, you reaching out to other people, as you know, Sarah, and then these landscape architecture and so forth, and subsidence. It really does add value to your clients. I think that's sort of, you know, the reasons. One of the reasons why we do it, isn't it? Really, that's that, you know, there are additional benefits to multiple people. So we're including your clients.
Definitely, and it's really liberating to say, look, I just don't know the answer to that, or that's not my area of expertise, and sharing it with others, and not being afraid of that those other people are going to suddenly swoop in and steal the show and take all the money, because you pick the right people to collaborate with, then it is a true collaboration. It's not about us or them or out competing. It's about a shared experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay, well, wrapping up then. So I think you've been more than generous with your time. So I just wanted to ask you a question regarding careers advice. Now, I think I always put this. What's the best piece of career advice either you've been given yourself, or even conversely, the worst piece of career advice you've been given, or along your journey? Or equally so, what advice would you give someone? It could be yourself. Imagine looking back, I'll be generous, 20 years, looking at a young Neil starting out on their career as an arboriculturist. So, what's the best or worst career advice, or what sort of advice would you give yourself?
I think that the best advice that I could offer either a younger me or other people coming into the industry is don't be afraid of mistakes. It's how we learn and how we improve, and don't be afraid of negative feedback either, or always ask for feedback. My character is that I need a bit of feedback anyway, to just, that's just the way I'm wired. I need people to say, good job, Neil, well done, or come back and say, oof, Neil, you did that thing by there. Would you mind not doing that again? Or could you just tweak this? So yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid of negative feedback. That is such a fantastic learning opportunity.
Oh,
and then
great.
the next piece I would say is, don't expect to be spoon-fed. It won't come to you. You've got to go out and get it. When it comes to, if you're in an organization that has them, when it comes to like performance reviews or development reviews or whatever they're called in your organization, do your prep, get yourself sorted about what you want from your career, and what you're willing to give to that career and the organization you're working for. I think that's hugely important, to do your prep, get ready, have that open conversation with your line manager or your boss or whoever it is when you're having those review meetings. I've got a lot out of those meetings by having open and frank conversations and saying, look, this is what I want, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm willing to give to get there. And more times than not, it's been met with a positive reaction.
Great. No, I think those are two fantastic, little golden nuggets there. Really, I think going back to the first point. I think I think we like being told we're doing a good job, yet sometimes we don't like being told we're not doing so well. And it's perceived as a failure. But really, I suppose you turn those failures into opportunities. Actually, it's an opportunity to learn about, whatever your perceived failure, because it's the task that you're not the failure. It's the task or the journey you're on that sort of needs to be changed rather than actually yourself. And maybe you need to learn something a bit more in a bit more depth itself. But I think it's just turning that around rather than it's a failure. But you're being criticised, as in they want the best out of you. So I really like that point. And and certainly about the appraisals, it sort of ties in really that open nature. And I think this is when it's about the culture of your company, that openness, that it's a willingness to provide honest feedback. Doesn't have to be harsh, doesn't have to be highly critical,
course, yeah.
But it's there to ensure that you do better tomorrow than you have done today, and also as a person that they improve just by that incremental margin. Just if you can improve by 1% every year, that's fantastic. Rather than looking at how can I massively improve. So those are great little nuggets there. Thank you, Neil.
Good. And remember, the door swings both ways as well. I've been in appraisals with my superiors, and they've said, oh, could you just change this? But don't be afraid to say to your superior, well, could you slightly change the way you do that as well? And that would help me do this. And I've had people that report to me say the same thing, and that open nature of just tweaking things to make it easier for everybody else. Because as much as I love my industry, it is work at the end of the day. If I win the lottery tomorrow, Dave will have a phone call from me saying I won't be into work.
Yeah.
But so make it as enjoyable and peaceful as you can.
That's wonderful. Well, great. Thank you so much. So, finally, please mention about, where can we get, can see your videos? I mean, you on what sort of platforms you on, and also your web address for your company, and
sure.
What we got planned for this next few months or year then, Neil?
Okay, so we're on YouTube at TR33 Life. You can find us there. There's a mixture of things on there. Some of it is fairly serious, talking about fungi and how to identify them, and some of it is just a bit of fun, how to make mud faces with your kids, that kind of thing. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me under my name on LinkedIn. The company's also we're on Instagram and on Facebook. You just search TR33 Limited, you'll find us there. Our website is www.tr33.co.uk. The website is having a refresh at the moment, so bear with us if you go on there and it looks a bit out of date or bits of it aren't working. But bear with us for now.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much. So I say thank you so much for your time today, Neil, and also thank you for joining me on the Ecology Academy podcast.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
If you enjoy our show and want to help, then please click on the subscribe button and rate us on your favourite podcast player, as that's how you can inspire ecologists in the making, help retain great talent, and and provide insights of our industry to a much wider audience of why ecology really does matter. Thank you. And remember, learning is a lifelong endeavour, so stay curious, be adventurous, and build bridges for others to cross.